Hello and welcome back. A lot of you guys have been requesting an urbanization guide here in EU5, or when and why and how to upgrade location ranks, and this is what we are going to be doing today. We are going to be doing this a little bit different in two parts, where we are going to be doing a basics video, that's this one here, and a detailed video, which will be in the link down below once it is uploaded. And so to jump into it, there are three tiers of urbanization. There is going to be the rural tier, which gives the benefit of max RGO and population growth, and also just generally more food production. There will be a penalty on the urban locations. The urban locations give potential upper tier pops, max control, additional supported building levels, and the food malice. The city, an upgraded version of the urban location, both city and towns are urban, is going to give more pronounced versions of these things, as well as a couple other things like pop promotion speed and construction speed, which are both useful. But the most critical thing that urbanization provides you with is the capacity to build burger buildings, which are going to be really powerful economic buildings in a lot of cases. And if you want to have a really large economy, you are going to need these things. But also, they are going to provide you with the ability to build civilian infrastructure, stuff like temples, which give +5 max control and are very valuable. In general, urbanization is better, and one of the ways you can look at urbanization is that food buys you urbanization. And so there are going to be markets where you can't generate that much surplus food, and as a result, you can't really upgrade too many places to urban, and so you're going to have to pick and choose. And also, to some extent, once you have enormous productions of things, you're going to have decreasing marginal returns, and they won't necessarily keep being super profitable, and so additional urbanization might not be as lucrative as the first urbanization was. And so you might want to switch or keep more of a rural strategy. That way you can benefit from the population growth. Jumping into why you want to upgrade or how you want to play around upgrading specifically, one of the biggest ones is the resources. Generally speaking, a good rule of thumb is if the RGO is 3+ in terms of its base price, you want to consider not upgrading it. This is because you will generally be able to generate a lot of value out of the RGO, and then also you don't necessarily need the maximum amount of these. You generally don't want to ever upgrade silver or gold, but anything that is 3+ you want to consider one way or the other. Another reason to play around rural, or rather around resources, is going to have to do with your provinces. For provinces, you get a very valuable bonus here. Oxford is in the same province as these other two locations, but in Oxford, as a result of us having wool in the province, we will gain production efficiency equal to 10%, or the proportion of the input that we have produced in terms of RGOs in that province. And so this is going to be really valuable. It will yield more than 10% growth, or more than 10% net value, and can make a negative net value into a positive, but we won't discuss the math in an extensive way here. You are also going to want to think of your value as being produced in a power base, where you specifically, you care about your proximity because it leads to you having really high control, and control is a throttle by which you are multiplying everything you produce by in order to determine how much contribution you get to the tax base. If you have 52 control, for example, you will only enact 52% of the tax base. So generally speaking, you're going to want to build more urban areas in areas that are high control because you will extract a higher percentage of the value. This kind of throttle is the same for market access, but market access works a little bit differently because you produce fewer goods. And so, but it's going to be much the same. And so one way you can think of this is at a location like this, we are going to be producing, roughly speaking, only 20% of the total value for each of these buildings, because 0.3 times 0.65, it's going to equal 0.2. We only get 20% value. In a place that is the capital, that is also a market capital, you will get 100% of the value. So you prefer to build in this way, and you could kind of think of it as in terms of you having a power base in areas where you have high proximity and also a lot of market access. Here in England, we kind of have 3 power bases, where in Antwerp, we also are getting a lot of proximity courtesy of some naval projection through maritime, allowing us to kind of have multiple locations where we have high market access because there's another market there, and also high control because we have a lot of proximity to that location, and to a lesser extent here. You are also going to want to build around both development and also around population. Population, incidentally, you will have more migration attraction in areas of high development, but there's a few reasons for that, but the one we are going to focus on here is that the max levels of each building is going to be informed by development and population. This will upgrade as the rank of the building upgrades. This is a rank 2 building, where you will see that we are going to get more from development and from the city level than we did on the previous building. Now, for this has two kind of big benefits. One is we are going to be able to produce more of the industries that are better, because otherwise they're capped, and two, we also get economies of scale, giving us more production efficiency, which is going to allow us to keep the building more profitable and still be able to produce more goods and push the price down. The downward price is going to allow us to export more, allowing us to get value through trade, and by exporting, we effectively buy or steal the demand of other markets for our goods. And so, just to kind of cover this here, we have 65% production efficiency here, right? We produce 160 value in books, and we have at the printers 140-ish of input goods. Let's call this just 150 flat on the income, and think of it from the perspective of if we lost 65%, which is our production efficiency, we would then only be producing 90 income in books. This actually would have negative profit, and so without the production efficiency, this building couldn't even run. But with it as it stands, we are getting 20 ducats in profit from this building, and so you are going to want to build around the dev and the pop, which kind of relates to terrain. You're going to want to, generally speaking, build in areas that are flatland, because everywhere else is going to have malices to both development and proximity, making it harder for you to have high proximity and harder to have a big power base. But also, you are going to want to build in areas that are grasslands and farmlands. Now, farmlands do have a negative impact on prosperity, but they have the benefit of having additional development growth. Beyond that, you also care about the terrain from the perspective of how much it's going to add to your population size. And so you get a flat population size from your vegetation, and you will get more population growth and have more max upside from your population in locations that have good vegetation for pop capacity. Farmlands are going to give plus 100k, grasslands I think are plus 50k, forests are plus 50k, or sorry, not forests, the woods are plus 50k, forests are plus 25k, etc. And so these are going to be important to a lesser extent. It's going to be important to what climate you're in, but generally you can't choose to build in better climate locations because it tends to be monoclimate for most plays that you're playing in, and so you're going to want to build in, again, flatland and grassland, farmland, generally speaking. And not only that, you can move your markets and you can move your capital around the fact that you have these good terrain, bad terrain, high pop, high development. These things are more movable than the other things, and so you should approach it from that direction. Should I move my markets and or my capital rather than trying to force bad terrain or something like this? And then finally, there is a couple of reasons to want to build stuff for infrastructure reasons, which comes to natural harbors. You will want to build around natural harbors. Generally speaking, you can build the naval infrastructure in places with good natural harbors, and so almost always you will want to upgrade these to urban areas so you can build the naval places. This is why Antwerp has such good access, and also you are going to want to build around rivers. In particular, the rivers are going to be unlocking several classes of buildings that are useful. One is really useful for food in the infrastructure building of the irrigation, which is going to give percentage food capacity. And so if you leave a place rural, so you can build more levels of the food RGO, and then build irrigation and build a bunch of rural food, stuff like sheep farms stacked on top of this, as well as also, villages that are farming villages, which are going to give both flat food by virtue of producing cattle, and percentage food by virtue of producing percentage food, the modifiers right there. You will be able to stack up enormous food and have a really strong breadbasket location. But on top of this, there is the infrastructure building of the bridge, which can be built urban or non-urban, which is useful, and also the Pound Lock Canal, which is urban only, specifically in cities. And so rivers, you generally want to kind of play around them and use them to either produce a lot of food or produce infrastructure for yourself. But this has been the quick and dirty version. If you wanted the more detailed version, it will be in the description down below. If you like this video, YouTube algorithm stuff, much, etc., and bye-bye now.